I knew that Dr. Blaylock knew Dr. Stan Monteith, but I didn't know they were close friends and that he'd even been helping him try to battle the cancer. He lived a lot longer than most people would with the type of cancer he had and kept broadcasting the last few years with it. We're going to do a special report for Friday's show when Watson's sitting in and put together some of the older interviews and also some of our video interviews with Dr. Stan Monteith. We've got a bunch of them together to remember him. But just contrast this selfless, loving, informed, caring person versus a Hillary Clinton, a monstrous people that just have total disdain, and Ezekiel Emanuel. These people just drip hate and envy and fraud, but telling us they're virtuous and liberal. Any research lets you discover that we're dealing with craven sickos, finishing up with their master plan. And any other words about Dr. Stan Monteith, Dr. Blaylock?
Well, the point I was making is that here, with all the disasters, the Benghazi, the ISIS, the ISIL, the giveaway of the entire victory and all the sacrifice our armed forces had committed in Afghanistan, Iraq, he gave that all away, gave it away. And yet these two brilliant men, Kissinger and Brzezinski, say that this is the best and we should get behind the president. Now, that tells you something about Kissinger and Brzezinski. Now, anybody who doesn't believe that there's something afoot that's quite foul in our world with these powerful men putting this traitor to our country as president, then there's something wrong. You need to look into it. Now, Stan Monteith was a man who always stood for truth over everything. Stan was one of the finest men. He was an orthopedic surgeon, and he spent all his time on this radio broadcast, researching, traveling, teaching, lecturing. He just was determined to tell people what was going on. He was a voracious reader. He knew numerous people of high position who were telling him information from the inside. We've lost one of the great men and great defenders of liberty, and my heart goes out to his family.
I don't think you can quantify the effect he's had. That's why I admire him, you and Ron Paul and so many others who truly are out there trying to educate, telling the truth, trying to stop this evil. And as bad as things are, if it wasn't for all the people like Congressman McDonald and countless others that came before us, we would already be completely overtaken. These collectivists have already taken down most of the world. They've taken us down to a great extent, but we just can't quantify where we'd be if it wasn't for people like Dr. Stan Monteith.
Yeah, his contribution is unmeasurable, and his influence on people around the world is incredible. I've hardly met a person anywhere who is involved in this that doesn't know Stan Monteith. He's interviewed everybody. I mean, he interviewed the highest-ranking people, royalty. It didn't matter who they were. Somehow he ended up getting them on his radio program. He was an amazing person.
Well, I hope when I check out, I can be, just half as good and prolific as he was. He's a real example of a role model, a real man.
Well, he is, and you're carrying on in his tradition. You're bringing people to your radio program that have an important story to tell, and that's how people learn. The interviews I hear on your program are some of the most important people and defenders of liberty I've ever heard.
BlaylockHealthChannel.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Blaylock. And you're even upping your game in the face of tyranny. That's it. We all have to redouble because we have a chance to turn this around. God bless you, Dr. Blaylock.
Well, God bless you too, Alec.
And God bless Dr. Stan Monteith. Just such a sweetheart. And I'm just so sad to hear he's died. But really, it's bittersweet because he just did such a great job. He's such a winner. It was about 4 years ago, I spoke to a capacity hall in Santa Cruz where Dr. Stan Monteith lived. And he hobbled over on his bad hips to the microphone and gave a speech. And we're going to get that speech and air it on the nightly news tonight. We'll probably air some of it today before this hour ends. But, he died this morning. Dr. Stan Monteith passed away, GCN radio host. This morning, battled cancer for several years. He's resting with the Lord in peace. And they've asked you not to call Radio Liberty, because obviously a lot of people are doing that you just write any support to Radio Liberty, P.O. Box 969, Soquel, California, Soquel, 95073. And a few hours ago, I learned about this from Ted Anderson, who was friends with him as well. And I wanted to call, I believe Ted, but I wanted to talk to Stan's family, and we did. So this little message was written by them. We took it over the phone. I know we have a lot of AM and FM affiliates out there that are new, so you may not know who Dr. Stan Monteith was, but for almost 50 years, he warned of the globalist takeover. He interviewed everybody, MI6 chiefs to former prime ministers to senators to just you name it, all the KGB defectors and you name it, he interviewed them. He was interviewing G. Edward Griffin 40 years ago. He was interviewing Anthony Sutton 30 years ago. He was interviewing Senator Church of the church committees. I mean, he was immersed in this, no exaggeration, with that focus of an old-line professional medical doctor. He quit his practice to focus on this, I guess, 30 years ago. Very lucrative, successful, and just put everything he had and worked 18 hours a day. 18 hours a day. When he had cancer, he would just sleep and then get up and do radio shows. I'm not going to get into all the stuff I know in the backstory. We were there 2 years ago for the Obama Deception 2. I got to put that film out. And he didn't want to tell us he had cancer at the time. We learned about it later. And he would talk for 10 minutes, go in a room and obviously throw up and stuff, and then just come out and do the interview. And and he had all these archives too. He was offering them to us, but saying, I don't know what to do with all this. We don't know what to do with it. Literally thousands of film reels and rooms of documents. And just Dr. Stan, whenever we would have some piece of information, he would call him and say, I want the source of that. Or when someone claimed something, he would ferret it out and discover who the source was. He obviously had a lot of intelligence operatives and people feeding him info because he had so much integrity. And he exposed that HIV was a race-specific bioweapon, got the documents. He never wanted any of the credit for anything. He just, so many times you track something back to Dr. Stan Monteith. You track it back to where he'd gotten the document, where he had originally, of course, it was in the New York Times, but he'd made a big deal about it back in 1976, whenever Mao Zedong, I think it was 76, died, and David Rockefeller wrote an obituary about how wonderful he was. It was Monteith made copies of that by the thousands and sent it out to radio people and sent it to Congress and freaked out. He was one of those people that just was always at the epicenter of good change and defending liberty and battling tyranny. And he did it absolutely with a servant's heart. And that's what mattered. And you just got to be proud of him. There is so much honor in that and such a sense of completion. And even though it's sad, it's bittersweet because there's real satisfaction in a man and a family and his wife who've lived integrity, who've lived dedication to fighting evil, who have focused like a laser beam with a commitment. That's what manliness is. Not acting tough, not shooting up a bar, not running around, flexing your muscles, threatening other people, or road rage. Manliness is full-on dedication for 14, 18 hours a day for 47, 48 years when he discovered the New World Order conspiracy to fight it and hold it back. That's a commitment. Just quiet, focused, in there hammering away at the enemy. And it takes different strokes for different folks. I'm boisterous, angry, aggressive, because I got into this when I was 20 years old. I'm 40 now. And I get angry when I learn our government funded Mao who killed 84 million people. I feel threatened. at a very primitive level. But people like Stan Monteith can control it, obviously feeling the same thing, and focus it. Now, some could say, obviously, in my 20 years, I've been more successful than Monteith in his 47. We don't measure things like that because we stand on his shoulders. That's why little things you do to fight evil, helping an old lady across the street, praising a police officer when they do the right thing, getting in a police officer's face when they do the wrong thing, running for mayor, decrying yourself when you do the right thing, helping your family, not just throwing, grandma in a nursing home to die, but actually taking care of her or making sure they're taken care of at the nursing home. It's an inside job with all of us to make a better world. Not letting government treat us like slaves, having dignity, being honest, confronting corruption. That's what this journey is all about. And none of you know, I don't know what ripples in a pond our lives like rocks hitting the surface, what ripples will touch others. I mean, I've been in the pond jumping around, splashing quite a bit. But the real power of InfoWars is you, the listeners, taking action, spreading the word, doing your own Access TV show, your own YouTube channel, your own local radio show, encouraging others. You don't know who you're going to warn who laughs at you, but 5 years later wakes up. You don't know how those dominoes and those chain reactions connect into others. The enemy does. They have an idea because they understand the power of the individual. They know what they've done working together in evil, what power it had. So they know you have power. They know I have power. And so they're always there telling us we don't have power. They're always there telling us that it's all lost. There's nothing we can do. We're reveling in it. Yeah, your kids belong to us. Yeah, 2 + 2 = 5. Yeah, you didn't build your business. Yeah, we're going to get your Bible and your guns because they want to dominate us through their disdain. Real men and women have too much pride and honor to want to dominate someone who's even lesser or to take advantage of stupid people. You try to build them up. So incredibly pathetic. And the disdain for humanity you people have out there that serve evil makes you want to throw up. You're a bunch of cowards. I guarantee you get in the ring with somebody who loves liberty, put a battle axe in each person's hand. I don't care how big the evil guy is. You people will start crapping your pants when it comes time to die. You're a bunch of cowards and you know it. And you live in constant fear. And thank God I'm not part of you people. Thank God that in all my warts, in all my problems, in all my sin, in all my worldliness, my heart's right and I love justice. Thank God I don't prey on the innocent. Thank God that I'm a little bit like my dad and a little bit like somebody like Dr. Stan Monteith or Ron Paul. Thank God. And I want to become better. I want to be strong. I don't ever want to serve the devil. And I'm here to tell you, you people that get up there with these death panels for old people and these death panels for the veterans, you're serving the devil. And you may not believe in God. You may not believe in an afterlife. Let me tell you how the world works. Guaranteed, everything you're doing to the innocents, everything you're doing to people that are under your power is going to come back on you tenfold. You can be assured you will pay in this life and your children will pay. Remember that. Your family name will pay. Your line will pay. Everything you do comes back on you and comes back on your line. And the world is falling to evil right now. People can point their fingers at the West and say it's the great source of evil. But it was also a great source of liberty, so more wealth was produced here. So evil came to take it over, to turn it towards an engine of planetary evil. Planetary cancer. And that's what we face now. So many trendies go, well, there are 7.5 or 7 billion, 300 something million people. I mean, there are too many people. I mean, we do need to sterilize people. And they'll kind of wink and giggle about it like they're part of it. You fools, you're being targeted as well. We should be working to build up humanity, working to find solutions, working to be honest, not working to put deadly vaccines into pregnant women that they know brain damages their babies bare minimum. I mean, it's all planned, people. Don't you understand? You cannot sign on to this. There's no debate. The world system is evil. And it now runs the major churches. It now runs the mainstream media. It's now got a bunch of self-centered people living on fiat money, living on the bubble that when it collapses, it's going to be the greatest evil the world has ever seen. And anyone with discernment, anyone with intellectual acumen, anyone who's got any sixth sense or a spirit or dialed in, you can intellectually see it, but you can also feel it. The shields, the hedge of protection falling, and evil just boiling up like a tide of stinking death. My God, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to see this unleashed. I want us all to repent and get our lives right and start going out and facing down evil and facing down the arrogant smile of its servants that are just absolutely already turned their souls over to everything bad and are just burning with hate for humanity, burning for hate for themselves. They've given up, they've given in, they've turned their souls over. They're not even humans anymore. They are nothing but biological androids possessed by the ghosts of the machine and the spirit of our age, Satan, the devil, Baphomet, the great black snake, the dragon. We'll be back. From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Hey, now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
Dr. Stan Monteith passed away this morning. Really good friend of mine. I've been on his radio show for at least 18 years as a guest. He's been on my radio show since about 1997, so close to that. I'd interview him for a few years till I got on air a few years. And he died after a 2+ year battle with cancer. Didn't even tell anybody about it till about the last year, why he wasn't on the air a lot, had fill-in guests and others. But he's gone now, and all I can say is he was a very classy person, and the amount of intel he put out and how much information went out like ripples from the water when you throw a rock into it from him is mind-blowing. And it makes me feel so humble about the position we have that reaches even more people every day, standing on his shoulders, the shoulders of giants. That's why I don't want to be thanked. Because I think of how much better job I should be doing with this type of firepower in our hands, at our disposal. Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, the nightly news, this radio show. We've all got to realize how epic this fight is. And I'm talking to my reporters, I'm talking to the crew, everybody, myself included, and realize we shouldn't take this for granted. We shouldn't imagine that any of us will be here tomorrow, that InfoWars will be here next month. InfoWars has never been bigger, never been stronger, never been more successful, but never had more enemies, never had more dirty tricks, never had more enemies coming out of the woodwork like roaches at midnight in an old restaurant. Because the enemy is making their move. Mordor is launching their attack. This is just the beginning. Here is the intro to, and about a little 9-minute speech. Dr. Monteith was there to hear me speak a few years ago in Santa Cruz to the listeners of KSCO. Michael Zwirling's fine group of stations. He has a few stations there. And I said, hey, will you please get up here and speak? And he said, oh, I really don't want to. And I said, please. And so he gave a short speech. He did die again this morning, and we're going to be putting a compilation together for Friday of some of his most important interviews and work, and some of our video interviews with him. We're going to show some of those never before seen with Dr. Stan Monteith. And some of these interviews, he's so sick he can barely talk, but it's important information that he's putting out there, really trying to impart to people the knowledge. But let's go ahead and go to some of this speech from a few years ago in Santa Cruz.
Back in the late 1950s, when people demonized you and attacked you 100 times more than they attacked me, because all this stuff's coming true now, this guy was an icon who stood up against him, and he does 4 or 5 hours of radio every day warning the planet. And so I wanted, I know most of you know him, but I came to here, not just you, and not just to give a speech, but to talk to Dr. Stan Monteith. So I wanted to spend 15, 20 minutes crystallizing the fact that he's seen this huge awakening and where society's going, and for us to count the cost and decide which side of this equation we're on. Liberty or tyranny? You got the floor, you take it away.
Well, I'm not going to take very long because I think that Alex really is doing the most amazing job. You know, I've been at this for 48 years now, but I've never seen as much enthusiasm as I've seen in the last few years. And things are getting worse and worse. Now, don't believe them when they tell you that things are going to get better. That the housing market's going to stabilize? No, it's not. The housing market's going to continue to fall, and more people are going to continue losing their homes. They tell you that the jobs are coming back. The jobs are not coming back. They've been sent overseas, and they're going to stay there. Why are they going to stay there? Because there is a plan. Now, most people really don't know what the plan is, but it's called globalism. It's an organized effort to lower the living standards in the United States and raise the living standards throughout the world so we can have a one world government, a one world religion, and a one world ruler. Now, if you want to document this, it's all in something called the Earth Charter, written by Stephen Rockefeller, the nephew of David Rockefeller, by Mikhail Gorbachev, and by Maurice Strong. And there in point 10A of the Earth Charter, they say, we're going to have equitable distribution of wealth between nations. Now, how do you get equitable distribution of wealth between the United States and China? Why, you lower living standards in the United States, and you raise living standards in China and in India and all throughout the world. And this is really what's happening, but they cannot tell the American people because most of you are so selfish. You don't want to give up your home. You don't want to give up your pension. You don't want to give up your Social Security and your Medicare benefits and all the wonderful things that we have in this country. But you must understand, ladies and gentlemen, the America we have known has ceased to exist and will never exist again during our lifetime. But the one thing we can hope is that we're going to be able to preserve an element of freedom. Now, how are they sending our jobs overseas? Well, it's a process known as offshoring manufacturing. And what we do is we take a manufacturer and we say to them, look, you're paying 35% corporate income tax in the United States. How you'd like to not have to pay any taxes at all. You move your factory over to China, you don't have to pay any corporate taxes, you can keep that money, you can invest it throughout the world, you can set up new manufacturing in all sorts of countries. How many of you here, if you were offered that, opportunity to make hundreds of millions of dollars, wouldn't take the opportunity? And that's what our great corporations are doing. Furthermore, they can get abundant labor. There's all sorts of labor over there, cheap labor. They don't have to put up with the bureaucracy, the harassment they have here. They do not have to actually pay unemployment insurance, workman's compensation insurance, FICA taxes. They're actually given loans. You can get a loan if you go over there. We're doing everything we can to encourage our corporations to move overseas. And of course, the reason they do that is because they can bring their products back in here because we don't have taxes. What we need to do, of course, is to protect our economy. Yes, it'd be nice to help the rest of the world, but first of all, we've got to save America. And anybody who talks about tariffs now is called a protectionist. Oh, you're a protectionist. Why don't you know if we put up tariffs, why we would have all sorts of people out of work? If we put out tariffs, we'd have tremendous trade deficits. Ladies and gentlemen, we have people out of work. The real unemployment is not 9.6%. It's close to 20%. If you use the U6 unemployment figures, which are put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics but never mentioned by the controlled media, and then you take away the birth-death ratio, it comes up to over 20%. If you calculate unemployment today, as they did during the Great Depression, over 20%, how many times have you heard that from Rush Limbaugh? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand, number one, the press is controlled in America. It's controlled by 5 or 6 great corporations. 90% of the press is controlled through interlocking directorates. And we're talking about Time Warner, Bertelsmann, which is a European corporation, Viacom, which runs CBS, Disney, which runs ABC, Fox, which runs the Wall Street Journal, and Fox News, that's Rupert Murdoch. And then, of course, the sixth is Comcast. They just bought up General Electric, they just bought up NBC. Most people don't understand that literally all of the major news magazines and major newspapers and the major networks are intertwined in what I call the Brotherhood of Darkness. Intertwining in the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and all these things that Alex talks about and he's talked to you many times about. But they have an organized program to destroy this country. Now, first of all, you offshore our manufacturing. 8 million jobs are gone. They're not coming back again. They're outsourcing our jobs. And that means, of course, Obama recently gave $23 million to an educational facility over in India to teach Indians how to speak better English so that they can have our answering jobs over there, and we can move our answering services overseas, because they can do our architecture, they can do our engineering, they can read our CT scans and CAT scans and all those sorts of things, medical. I mean, in fact, there are between 25 and 42 million jobs that can leave America and be done just as well overseas, according to Dr. Alan Binder, who's a professor of economics at Princeton. What they're talking about is impoverishing the American people. They're encouraging people to come in from other countries, well-trained people with H-1B visas who work for much less. They're refusing to enforce our immigration laws. Why? Because they want the illegal immigrants to come in, so that we'll work for less and drive down our wages. Now, right now, people aren't hurting too badly. I mean, we've got unemployment insurance. It's been extended out to 2 years. You get 50% of what you were making before. But what happens when the federal government runs out of money? You can't keep borrowing money. And eventually what happens, and of course we're going to see this within about 10 years, is that they'll be putting out certainly more for insurance on the national debt and for Social Security and Medicare. Then all the money that comes in, there won't be anything left over for unemployment insurance, there won't be anything left over for the military. All of these programs, these wonderful programs, are going to come to an end. And that's exactly what they want. Who are they? Well, they're the Trilateral Commission. All you need to do, of course, is go back and read what Barry Goldwater told us back in 1979, his book, No Apologies, when he said this group is international. Their goal is to take over the financial and commercial interests of the world by first taking over the government of the United States. What have they done? Well, from 1977 to 2008, every president and or vice president of the United States came from the membership rolls of the 87 members of the North American chapter of the Trilateral Commission. Do you think that happened by accident? 6 of the 8 presidents of the World Bank, who controls world finance, came from this little group. 8 of the 10 World Trade Representatives, who determine our trade policies. 7 of the 12 Secretaries of State, and 9 of the Secretaries of Defense. They control our government. And Rush Limbaugh is never going to tell you. And Sean Hannity isn't going to tell you. And Glenn Beck isn't going to tell you. But Alex Jones will.
Yeah.
That Alex is on the radio locally here, that Michael Zwerling has had the courage to put him on. Alex is doing a great job. He's picking up. I mean, I'm not going to be around. I'm 81. I'm not going to be around any that much longer. But it's great to know that we have people who are going to be able to stand up and tell the truth.
Wow. And there's a little bit more of that speech. We'll air it on the nightly news or later in the week. But what a sweetheart. And believe me, I don't want to be the only host on a big platform telling this stuff. It's dangerous. And now you do hear Glenn Beck talk about some of this and others, and that's good. I'm not in some competition here. I don't territorialize the truth. Man, I want out of this. I liken it to like claustrophobia. The globalists, what they're doing, the evil, the things they're doing, I personally feel it. And I want to stop it. And so we've lost a real warrior in Dr. Stan Monteith. And we love you, buddy. You did a great job. You ran the race hard. You won it. You're a winner. Your family's got to be proud. We're all proud of you. Great job, Dr. Stan Monteith. We all salute you, and we love you so much. Great job. And thanks for the last few years being so sick and still fighting so hard. You really did it all. Great stamina. Just a true warrior for justice and the little people. Thank you so much. We love you. Here's that Trilateral Commission quote by Barry Goldwater. The Trilateralist Commission is international and is intended to be the vehicle for multinational consolidation of the commercial and banking interests by seizing control of the political government of the United States. The Trilateral Commission represents a skillful, coordinated effort to seize control and consolidate the four centers of power: political, monetary, intellectual, and ecclesiastical. Yeah, they took over the churches too. The universities, the medical, the banking, everything. And they just so happen to be eugenicist, exterminist. You might want to find out what that means. The people running things want you and your family dead. They got to kill your brain first, though, and get you ready. Man, I am just freaked out by Dr. Stan Monteith dying. I was really thinking about him this weekend. I was going to call Nico and say, let's get him back on if he's well enough. But I won't be getting him back on anytime soon. Not on this go-around. Maybe at the next level. I'll do a radio show, the next plane of existence. But I already talked about that. Nightly News is tonight, 7 o'clock Central with Leanne McAdoo. She's hosting tonight, and she's in there doing research right now for a bunch of big breaking stories. Is that our story up on Drudge? Interesting. So it's on the bottom of the middle column of drudgereport.com. Police urge residents to outfit homes with police-run surveillance cameras. Man, Drudge is so quick that before I'd even refreshed InfoWars and seen our own article 10 minutes ago, Drudge already has it up. That's incredible. Okay, I wish I could do that. I tell you, I've had a bunch of family stuff going on the last year, deaths, you name it. Now, I got a family member very close to me that is real sick, and it's just like when it rains, it pours. I'm not complaining. People dying in your family or being deathly ill just really are having major problems. Just has a way of, one of the few things that gets me not thinking about work. I'm still thinking about it like 12 hours a day, but man, I'm not complaining either. I'm like, man, it's a certain point. There's times in history where everything happens at once, isn't there? And this is certainly one of those times. Here's an article. Huge plunge in kindergartners' vaccination rates. Officials stumped why people aren't getting the vaccines. And the new data shows people not getting vaccinated has grown by 414%. It's because people don't trust you anymore. The system isn't trusted. That's on InfoWars. Briefly, to close out this transmission, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be taking calls. Ron Paul, Jesse Ventura, and others join us. I want to say great job to the crew. We really have produced what I believe are some of the best, hard-hitting, not fillered, real deal, key missing link type vaccines, natural, body systems to counter all the vaccines and the rest of it. I was thinking about vaccines, supplements, and we've got DNA Force back in, the flagship product, X2, super nascent, true nascent iodine. Turns bright blue on paper, not black or red, folks. This is a real deal. Pure crystals turn into gas and inject it into it. I mean, it's just, nobody does this. I'm not bragging. It's just fact. Super male vitality, super female vitality. They've bombarded us with estrogen mimickers. This just lets your glands operate naturally, according to what group said. All I know is it works really great. AccuPower, Fluoride Shield, InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com to find the Pro Pure water filters, discounted promo code WATER, high-quality storable foods, the Molon Labe shirts, you name it, belt buckles. All of it funds this operation. Thank you for your support. Keep spreading the word. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. We call it mid-air refueling around here. High-quality products that fund the operation. Nightly News tonight, 7 o'clock. In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars.